Thank you, Karen. That's probably one of the better introductions I've ever had. Lee Anderson's leaving. I'm not going to vote for you. Probably should have said that. I'm not supposed to be political. And I'm not. I'm just a bureaucrat. I just push numbers and talk to people and do things like that. And try to come to work every day and make a difference in some of the lives here in Augusta. That's a damn hard job to do sometimes. What makes you all mad? I'm just curious, because, to say that anything made a lot of people mad. I'm not too sure how much of a great argument that was to argue about, but we spent a lot of time and energy doing that. We get mad about some other things. You've got to remember here they got mad about something. Very story, they got mad about the way some of the gateways looked and did something about that. He put forth, he came down and hollered at me for a while, which happens regularly. And, but he took the next step. He said, okay, now that I'm through hollering, what can we do to make it better? And you'll be able to ride around Augusta for the next 50 years and see what the result is. He got mad. He took the next step. I'm concerned here that people don't get mad. And what we get mad about is pretty stupid sometimes. We've got several people that write a blog that are basically holding this city hostage. About 20 of them, maybe 30. Hell, 200. Okay? 1% of our community is influencing our elected officials in a manner that's costing you money. Coming right out of your pocket. That would make me mad. And obviously it has, or I wouldn't be saying that. I've got a job interview tonight, so I don't really care what I say. One of these days I will take it. They keep making me these offers, and I keep saying, no, I want to stay here. Because there's a lot we haven't done yet. There's a lot of things that we can get done in the city. A lot of things we need to work on. And a lot of things that need to be better than what they are. Some of y'all are just going to have to flat get mad and make it happen. Being patient and being whatever, it's just not going to happen. Obviously, the people that write the articles that don't have to worry about, and I'm not talking about the newspaper or the TV, I saw Brad here, they get it right part of the time. These other people don't get it right at all. They get to make up stuff. There's no fact checks. There's nothing else there. They get to make up stuff. And you know what? Some people believe it. It just blows my mind totally that somebody without any credentials whatsoever, without any background whatsoever, can come in and make a statement. And I've got 10 people up there, several of them are nodding like, thank you for coming and setting us straight. If you read the Spirit today, I made a disparaging comment about a guy wearing camouflage and a guy with sideburns. I shouldn't talk like that. There's a lot of good people that wear camouflage and a lot of good people that have sideburns. But I'm not too sure that the two that I was talking about have any business trying to run the city. We've done about $750 million worth of public improvement since I've been here. On time, under budget. Haven't raised your taxes in such a long time. Every time I say tax increase, even I start coughing a little bit because I forgot what it was. Not a good track record. And let's see, what time is this? Oh, right before I walked in, VDAC. Anybody here works for VDAC? 75 new jobs announced today. We have Starbucks. We've got Rockwood. We've got places that other communities would kill to have coming to Augusta. And y'all can't get mad enough to solve some of the minor issues that we have. I don't know if last time I was here I talked about my theory about Augusta, but you're going to hear it again if I did. The places we get compared to, the Chattanoogas of the world, the Greenvilles of the world, the Charlottes of the world, they hit rock bottom about 35 years ago. For those of you that might have been there or around looking at that point in time, they were at the bottom of the bottom. And you know what happened to them? They got mad. They got angry with the status quo. And they decided that they've got to put some of this little petty stuff aside. Wow, yeah. And worry about survival. And worry about where they're going to get their next jobs. And where they're going to get the next opportunities for employment. And what they can do for their education system. And what they can do for their community. And they said, we can't afford to argue about some of this stuff. We need to argue about the big stuff. Augusta's been awful lucky. We haven't really hit that. I guess the lowest point was when we had the fires. Only Ed remembers that. Wasn't your cow, that was Chicago with the cow. I'm sorry. Okay, long story. Well, you know, we've just sort of been meandering along. Been pretty happy. Been pretty lucky. Look at the pictures you saw on TV this morning when you're getting up. Look at those people whose total lives have been destroyed in less than 24 hours. Look at those people that will never, ever, ever be the same and had nothing to do with it whatsoever and no control over it whatsoever. And think about how lucky we are to be able to sit here with lights and power and food. Think about that for a second. I got this yesterday, and I haven't been able to sleep since then. And, you know, I'm a cop. That's my background, I know that. And I'm pretty tough. I've seen lots of things that y'all can never imagine. What people have done to each other, the results of accidents, the results of anger, the results of hate, the results of stupidity. What it does to people, what it does to their bodies, what it does to their minds. It didn't bother me anywhere as much as what looking at his pamphlet did last night. Nice little girl here. And you know what it said? She might have lived longer if she lived in Florida, Connecticut, or Costa Rica. Our mortality rate, the life expectancy in the state of Georgia is 77 years. In Chile, it's 79. In Slovenia, it's 79. This little girl right here is at a higher risk for hepatitis, AIDS, and other infectious diseases because she lives in Georgia. She'd be better off in some third world countries. You know, last time I was here, I know I said this, but I say it every time I go somewhere, is that there are too many people in this city with holes in their roofs and rats in their basement for anybody to get a good night's sleep. None of you have holes in your roof. One or two might have rats in the basement. We have a lot of people that will kill for the meal you just had. We're changing that a little bit now. There are too many people with rats in their basement, holes in their roof, in childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, for any of you to get a good night's sleep. got to get mad. You can't let this city get bogged down on little stuff. It's not relative to the real world. It's up to you to do that. Each and every one of you. It's not my job. It's your job. It's our job. I came in here to give my budget presentation because I've been giving one for about 10 years now, and I can't seem to get the commission to understand how it works. And I thought I'd try it with a different group of people. And I'm going to do that real quick. Brady understands. He's got it down pat. Some of the others have an issue with that. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and start that.
I gave my weed.
Maybe not. That's a picture of the hurricane. That sort of defines our budget at the moment. A lot of hot air, all around a circle. That point it had no trigger or no direction. But has the potential for a lot of impacts on the world. Okay? You've got a cold front coming in from the north, and I sort of think that is the state and the federal government that demands each and every one of you pay taxes to us because they said we'll cut your taxes. You know, it's pretty cool, right? Our legislators say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take the sales tax off of energy for people in manufacturing because we don't think they ought to pay sales tax. And they took away their 4 cents, which was fine with me. Also took away 2 cents of yours, which guess what? That means you don't have any money now. $500,000 this next year goes away, but you don't have it. And it gets worse. It goes up to about $2 million over a 4-year period. But they were nice. They said the locality can impose a tax to make up for that. Sure. Let's raise taxes. How do we want to raise taxes on anybody? Yeah, ain't going to happen, is it? How many people want to chip in and take care of that $2 million? Tough. So that storm that's coming down is federal regulation, state regulation, and when it meets, you end up destroying New York City, taking out Connecticut, making a mess of the shore, and with 3 foot of snow in West Virginia. That's what happens when you don't really look at the budget and don't look at what things really mean. Beyond the political hype of no new taxes, you know, let me apologize to you. Because every time a politician looks at you and says, I can do all this and not raise your taxes, they think you're stupid. I just think that's horrible. Because guess what? In your business, can you do more and not have more money to do it with? At home, can you go buy the Mercedes without having a way to make a payment? Same thing with the government. Doesn't work that way. Federal government maybe can, because they make all their own money. We're required to have a balanced budget. That means, go ahead. One more. Our expenditures need to equal revenues. Not real hard. You got this much coming in, and you can't spend more than that. I've said that for years now. There's some options. You can use some of your savings account. But how many of y'all want to pay a car payment out of your savings account? Not real smart, is it? Go ahead. This takes that book, or this book, and puts it in a little slide here. And the thing you're looking at is at the bottom, $4.1 million. That's what the whole is. And we'll argue about that for the next 30 days or so, and that'll go up and down and whatever. But that's sort of what we're looking at. Law enforcement, general fund, that's about $3 million. Other stuff, you know, we'll take care of that. That's fairly insignificant. Total budget, how much do you think our total budget is for the city? Anybody get me out of it? Correct, well. knows. He didn't count. What do you think? How much? Somebody give me a number. Yes.
129 million.
129 million. Well, that's sort of the general fund, but guess again. $800 million. Wow. My mother knew I had $800 million to play with. She'd roll over her grave. You know? $800 million. It's a big operation. It's a real big operation. One of my commissioners and I had an argument last week arguing about nickels and pennies and stuff, and he came back with the adage that if you take care of the nickels and pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. I agree with that fully. But if you spend 3 weeks arguing about the nickels and pennies, you'll never get to the big picture. I told him that, and that's probably why I have a job interview. Damn, it keeps coming back. Expenditures equal revenue. I mean, that's the bottom line. What you got? The general fund, that was that 128 million or so that we talked about, that you mentioned over here. They decided we needed some more stuff. So they asked for about $3 million worth of junk, and I suggested we fund an additional almost $1 million. So that holds about $4 million now. And that's things that we feel are necessary. One of which is an economic development person to do retail. That's about $80,000 bucks. And we think that's necessary because that's an investment. Some of it's mandated stuff. The public defender's office needs help. Don't have any choice. Got to pay for it. A couple other things like that. But every time you look at that, she kicked you in the face, doesn't it? You can't do more unless you got the money to do it. Cost of living increases, new programs, new personnel requests. We haven't really done a cost of living increase for the city in about 6 years or so. But during my tenure, those salaries have gone up about 16%. During the 8 years I've been running the show. So I'm not really too worried about that. You know, the city employees have bit the bullet like most anybody else. I think that's appropriate when you set an example. I would love to give them a little bit this year, but I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep if we don't. Damn, darn. Forget I'm in church. I'm sorry. Darn it. Back up here again. Go ahead. So, it's real simple. You know, that equation is supposed to be equal. You can either increase your revenue, and what's that mean? Raise taxes. That's the way it works. Or you can decrease the expenditure. And what's that mean? Cut services. And that's always what they tell us to do. You know, let's cut something out. So, how many of y'all been to a park lately? Cut out the parks. That wouldn't bother y'all too much, would it? Anybody call the police lately? Anybody call the cops? That would save us about $55 million if we did away with them. What else? Library? Anybody go to the library? No, we all buy our books on these things now and read them. So we don't do that anymore. Sounds easy. We just stop doing it. Except it's never that easy. Because it becomes a program that somebody likes, or somebody wants, or somebody needs. There are a lot of people that aren't as lucky as us and haven't had to call the cops. They call them regularly. Anybody had a fire at their house? Lucky you get. Knock on wood. You spend a lot of money on the fire department. Thank goodness you don't either. Some people do. So what do you cut? And that's always the issue we face. You know, they say, well, we've got a lot of waste in government. Well, you know, a couple of years ago, I probably wouldn't argue that point too much. Before the guy raised his hand and said, well, I rode by a truck and saw 4 people standing there with a shovel. One guy had a shovel and nobody else was doing anything. Let me suggest to you that one of them was the inspector required by OSHA. One of them was the guy telling the guy where to shovel, because he was the engineer, and the other guy was working the shovel, and the third guy was probably not doing anything. But if your employees worked about that same level, we'd all be a lot better off. And that's the way it goes, you know? replace the tax, sales tax we lost on energy, manufacturing energy. State said we could do that. You own a manufacturing plant, you wouldn't like that at all because you just had to pay us. Let's put that in perspective. They got a 6% cut. Not a bad deal. If we did a 2% excise tax, they're still 4% ahead. Not a bad deal for these people. And it gets more complicated than that. Because when you reduce that sales tax, it changes the formula on your rebate on your ad valorem tax. So guess what the state did to you and didn't tell you about it? They raised your ad valorem tax. Right under your nose, and we didn't even know it. Wow. Or we could raise tax. Let's talk about it, though. Go ahead. You're tired of seeing that. So am I. Let's talk a little bit about taxes here real quick. I hate to do this. It's what I do. That's the increase of the village that we've got there. And that's how it impacts on a $100,000 house. If we increased it half a mil on a $100,000 house, it would cost that homeowner $17.50 a year. Not a week, not a month, it's a year. They just told me this meal here was 20 bucks. I'm sure we were trying to take advantage of poor country boy. But I told him I couldn't afford to eat, and I had a glass of tea for $1.50. You raise that village by 75 mils, it costs that guy $26. And if you raise it by 1.5 mils, it costs $52 a year. Sounds like a horrible amount of money to me. And you know, we use a $100,000 house. We used to use it because it was easy for me to figure out in my head, and that's the only reason we used it. We did a little research, and the average value of a house in Augusta, Richmond County is $100,000. It's a little scary the way that works, isn't it? But it is. You know, I've jacked these numbers up just a little bit because I know y'all are well to do. And I had them pull a tax statement for somebody that owns a $443,490 house. $500,000. That's Grady's garage. But the total tax bill for that house is $6,357. That's a lot of money. If you take out what the school board gets, it becomes $3,063.38. This is an urban service district, so it's a little high. If you take out the garbage, it becomes $2,947. If you take out the state's little part of it, the state gets $35 for some reason, I don't know why. It gets down to $2,912.80 on a $500,000 house. Doesn't sound like a whole lot to me if you can afford a $500,000 house. Probably what you make your car payments every 3 months. You know, maybe not, I don't know. If you divide that by the month, you get $242.73 a month. My cable bill is $180 a month. We're getting close. My house is not anywhere near expensive. The way I figured it's about 71 gallons of gas at $3.40 a gallon. Well, what's that buy us when you pay that? Because everybody says, well, I pay your salary. You just bought about 20 minutes of my time on a bad day when I'm not doing anything. You bought 1/10 of a police car, 8.2 blocks from the sheriff's department. Vests are about $250 a piece. So we bought a few of those, maybe 10. Not all of this, we just bought one of those things, not all of them. Or you put somebody in jail for 58 days. We greatly appreciate it. So when I first moved down here, I bought a house. Wasn't planning on staying anywhere. It's not a place I like. It shows me the taxes on it. And in Virginia, where I came from, you pay taxes about a quarter. I'm thinking, my God, these people are right. These taxes are hard. started figuring out the numbers, thinking, wow. Then I found out that was for the whole year, not the quarter. I haven't complained since. We're awful lucky here. We need to appreciate that. But the we're lucky part doesn't include a lot of people here. Those of us that have, in my mind, need to make sure that at least those that don't have an opportunity. Go ahead. So let's talk about what we don't want to get. I think we decided we need a sheriff's office. Even though Ronnie's leaving, we still probably ought to have an office there. Fire department works. I don't think we get a lot of consensus about the parks either. Somebody's probably doing that. So what don't you want? What program? An across the board reduction, let's cut everything by 10% and go home. That never works. Give me a balanced budget at the end of the day, but it still just prolongs the questions. Go ahead. Go back to 212. We go from there. So I asked the commission to give me some direction. This is the same commission that told me to negotiate a deal for T centers. I'm a little curious as to what that direction might be. I think what we'd like to do is ask y'all for some direction. Because, once again, it's your city. It's not my city. Shirley at Al Gray's city, he lives in Lincoln. If he Brad owns the city, he's the guy with the sideboard that I made a fail reference to that I probably shouldn't have just said his name, but I did. Al wears a camouflage. It's really great. And, they just want to pop up with all these wonderful ideas, and when you ask them what they've done to deserve credibility, you shouldn't get anything. You should get 10 good years of a track record that's provided a decent government. I think I know what I'm doing. I don't. The staff. I don't. The people that we pay to do, that you pay to do the jobs, have been pretty good. T-Center, you know why we're in this bind right now? We saved $1.7 million on a bond. Overall, we saved about $5 million, which at the time everybody thought was a heck of a deal. Now we're arguing about a kitchen. We're arguing about a refrigerator, people. Come on, it's a refrigerator. $1.7 million to buy stuff with it. You know, they said they didn't like the deal with the conference center, which was a 50-year deal. This is a 15-year deal. They didn't like the fact that we didn't have any controls. We have an audit every year and approve a budget every year. We've done everything they've asked us to do, and they can't decide now where to go. Totally inappropriate for me to talk like that. Totally inappropriate for me to express my frustration. As a public servant, I shouldn't do that. As a citizen of the city of Augusta, I'm a very proud citizen. I think I'm disgusted. Each and every one of you ought to be mad. Y'all pay me, but you don't control my mind. Y'all pay me, but you don't control the way I feel. Y'all pay me to do a good job, and you've got that. You need to get mad. You need not to settle for second best. You need not to sit around and say that's somebody else's problem, because it's your problem. Each and every one of them. And the other, every place I've been, we've had crazy people. It's just the way it works. We've had people that know how to do things better, and sure, gets these all the time. They call him 5 times a day and said, if I had your job, I'd do this, this, and this, and this. There's a good reason they don't have his job, because they don't know how to do this, 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 and this. And if they did, we'd get sued so much, it just wouldn't work. You need to make sure that you have a faith in what we get done. You need to be able to look around and see progress. If you can't, you're blind. can't see how much better we are now than we were 10 years ago. Sorry. If you can't imagine how much better we can be in another 10 years, another 10 days, another 10 weeks. There's no reason why this little girl should not live any longer than what she does, simply because she's born in Georgia. We have the best combination of medical facilities that you'll find anywhere, right down the road. And within 3 blocks of that, we got people that are dying that don't have to die. You know, I'm not a politician. I'm not much of a public speaker. I'm not much of anything except a guy that can't understand why we can't work together to make things better. Please, don't be satisfied. Please don't be happy. Please don't think that you've got it made, even if you do. Because you not only have the responsibility, it's a calling, it's whatever. You do it every day. Don't work your tails off at the fair. You do that, and you do great things with that. Each and every one of you do great things at work. Do more. That extra 10 minutes a day, that extra 2 hour a week or a month or whatever. You know, I didn't come up here to preach. I'm not a very good preacher. But I did come up here to tell you what I feel. And that's exactly what I've done. Anybody has any jobs available, I'll probably be looking for one. Not too smart. Got 30 years in law enforcement. Another 10 years running one of the best cities in the state of Georgia. I can handle an $800 million budget and 2,700 employees. I care. We all care too. We wouldn't be here. Let's care together. I think I'm supposed to answer questions. If anybody who's not bored to death and ready to leave, I'll be happy to do so. If you are bored to death and ready to leave, just make sure you're not on the ballot. Get your way on our vote. Yes, sir.
Tax cell phones.
Oh, we do?
We do?
Yep.
Let's raise that.
We can, I think. No, state sets a rule on that. Sorry, I got 2 of them. Yeah. We do tax towers. We're looking at a way to enhance that a little bit. Cell phone towers, we can do that. And, you know, we're looking at any other way other than putting it on the property owner to get that money. The conference that we lost was bought about $400,000 in our community. The thing we're arguing about is a $128,000 conference. If I subtract that out, you know, I don't know. Yes, sir.
Is the tax digest, is it increasing or decreasing with the little thing?
We're holding our own pretty much. It actually went up just a tiny bit last year. But it's you know, when the world did this, Augusta did this, and when the world's done this, we're still here, which is something to be proud of at this moment. But the actuality is not a whole lot of growth.
Mr. Russell?
Yes, sir.
How does the budget compare now versus 10 years ago when you got here? How much?
Pictures are
over
prettier.
10 years?
Pictures are prettier. We've got AV stuff we never had before. The hurricane was a new switch for this year. I thought that was pretty cool. And it's been pretty flat, basically. We haven't done a lot more, or charged a lot more. Your taxes are actually less this year than they were 3 years ago? 3 years ago, or less. Who'd have thought, right? Way back in the back, and then we'll come forward.
Fred, is there somewhere you can go to see where all the budget dollars are allocated? Is there a source of?
Yes, sir. If you go online, this document's online. So you go to our website, you can find this document here. It tells you exactly where it all goes and where it all comes from. It's very open. Yes, sir. The gentleman up front. Yes, sir.
Fred, what do you think is the biggest limiting factor to bring new business to Augusta?
Probably the hardest thing that we fight against now is the fact that other states have the ability to give away a lot more than we do. The issue becomes, but there's a demand, you know, there's a cost ratio there that doesn't make any sense to me. You know, South Carolina will give every, you know, the company that went in South Carolina down here, the tire company, Bridgeport, well, I love dearly, I'm glad they're here, won't pay taxes for about 30 years. It doesn't do any good. I mean, it's nice to have the jobs and everything, but, you know, in my mind, we don't give away the store to get the job. The deals we've negotiated with Starbucks, Rockwood, that is a pigment company. We're bringing in a manufacturing company from China to work at Augusta. It's pretty cool, you know? A negotiated deal. We made some tax allocation issues there that we had. But at the end of the day, they're paying us. It balances out. You're not losing money. You know, we're not saying, here's the key to the city, y'all build a house and we'll be happy to make the announcement. No. They're actually paying off their own deal. So the issue becomes the workforce and the willingness to take the time to do it. And I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things in my job, is if you look at what we've been able to pull off. I've made a pretty good career here doing things that people said were impossible. Who'd ever thought we'd get rid of Gilbert Manor and have a dental school there? Seriously. Who ever thought that would actually happen? Who ever thought after 30 years we'd actually build a judicial center? We argued about that for a long time. Who'd ever thought we'd actually have a trade and exhibit center? It was first talked about 40 years ago. We got one. Doors are ready to open. And we got a few issues. But we always have issues here. But it's the potential that we see, that I see, that makes it exciting. Ryan, I know you got a question. Yes, your retirement's safe. Don't worry about it. Got it all stuck away in a sock for you. Not a big deal. Grady's going to go back. He's already texting the other commissioner to be a vote on Tuesday. You know, if you have one of these jobs and you have to worry about losing your job, you don't need this job. You got to worry about doing what you think's right. I think I've got a history of doing that. They vote to fire me about every 18 months or so. One of these days they'll get it right, and I'll be gone. But I'm not going anywhere. Any other questions? Y'all have been a great audience. Usually about halfway through somebody leaves, and about 3/4 of the way through people go to sleep, and usually people start throwing things, and that's when I know when to quit. Thank you for letting me come here every year and indulge myself. I cannot speak like this in front of most groups. I cannot be this open and honest in front of most people. I spend many a day with blood running from my lip because I've kept my mouth shut and had to bite it. This group allows me not to bite my lip. This group allows me to say what I really feel. And this group is the heart and soul of what Augusta means to me. People like Barry Story that got mad and did something. People like each and every one of you that sacrifice your time and energy to work at the fair. People like every one of you that go to work every day and help provide jobs for other people. On behalf of the 10 members of the commission and the mayor, 26